out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim.
Hi, Ryan.
And hello, everyone listening. Welcome to episode 60 of Dismembering Horror. That is 6060. Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie, and
myself, Tim Aslin.
There he is. We dismember a horror film every week. And what does it mean to dismember a horror film, Tim?
You're asking me? Oh, well, we watch a movie.
Yes.
That maybe you suggested, or maybe we just found.
Or, yes, we found a lot of our films off of lists of top horror movies that humans have decided.
Mm-hmm. Or robots, we don't know.
Yeah.
And then we talk about the movie.
Yes. Specifically, we talk about what worked, what did not work, and anything we found interesting or noteworthy. Those are our three sections.
It's literally what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
This second. In this room.
You're about to, we're setting it up for you. It's what's going to happen. Before that, those are our three big sections, but we also rate it. We do a little summary so you can plug into where our brains were at when we watched it and how we cataloged it, if we made sense of it or not. What?
Often it didn't make sense to us.
Which is that's part of it too, is to hear how it didn't make sense to us. But we do hope that you watch the film with us, because that's sort of the spirit of how we record it. Is you watch the film, then we sit down and you're here in spirit with us as we in spirit for this October spirit.
That's right. I like to imagine when we're watching it in my living room that there's like all of the listeners' spirits are just around us.
You like to imagine that?
Oh, so much.
Great. Well, I can't say I've done the same thing. Maybe I will next time.
Yeah, you should try it.
But whatever spirit was with us for this film, Tim, I'm just so excited to continue talking about the Psycho films. We're almost we'll be halfway through them at this point. After this episode, we'll have done 2 of the 4 Psycho films. If you haven't heard,
that's true.
We're today covering Psycho 2, and if you haven't heard, on top of that, we're covering Psycho 2 as part of covering the 4. Well, the non-remake, the 4 original Psycho films. The original Psycho film and the 3 direct sequels.
Right.
Yes.
So did you say we're doing Psycho 2 today? We're doing Psycho 3 today.
Oh, shit. I did. Sorry, I did.
It's because you love Psycho 2 so much.
No, it's just because
there's just so many numbers.
That happened to be the one that I'm looking at.
It's because we watched Death Bell and math was the enemy.
So yeah, Psycho 3. Everything I said stands true. I'm excited to talk about Psycho 3.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. I didn't know if I was losing my mind just now.
Sure, yeah. We'll just talk about Psycho 2. Did we already do that? I don't know. Whatever.
We could. We did.
Anything you want to say about Psycho 2 before we get into Psycho 3? We had a week away from it.
Without tipping my hand as to how I felt about Psycho 3. I still think it was awesome, Psycho 2.
Great.
Even a week later.
Cool.
Or whatever.
All right. Well, great. Let's get into the trailer so then we can talk about everything else we're going to talk about then. How about that?
Okay.
All right. Here is, at least for you, the partial trailer for this week's film, Psycho 3.
Just leave him alone.
Norman Bates is back to normal. But Mother's off her rocker. Again.
Norman, is that you?
Yes, Mother. It's me. Bates Motel.
Aside from total boredom, nothing's going to happen to you here.
I can't have that sort of thing going on in my motel. gives the place a bad name.
Why are you so kind to me?
You remind me of someone.
I figured Bates was a geek, but a full-fledged Looney Tune?
Norman!
I'll get you for this, Mother.
You haven't got the guts, boy. It's perfectly natural for a son to love his mother.
All right, Tim. After the trailer, we rate it per our rating system.
Yeah. I'm so torn about it, unfortunately.
Would Tim and I tell ourselves as individuals to avoid it, stream it, rent it, or buy it?
I think I am... Oh, man. I'm still a rent. I'll give it a rent still. I'm borderline a stream for it. Then there's like... Maybe the overall outweighs the specifics of why I'm almost a stream.
Wait, say that again? The overall
like movie outweighs why I might be a stream. Like there are certain specific things that make me go, yeah, but this.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of want to be a stream, but no, I'll be a rent still. It's still pretty cool.
Do you remember what I said for Psycho 2? Because I just left what I had up for last time, which was rent/buy. Like, I'm like...
Like specifically what you said?
Yeah. I can't remember.
You love Norman Bates. I don't remember what you, like... You weren't a buy. But didn't you say you would buy it if it was like a set?
Yeah, which exists. I just want that set so much, Tim. I already have the first one, the 50th anniversary Blu-ray release is great. These movies, they're like Norman Bates' story as played by Anthony Perkins. It's almost, they're turning into like kind of comfort horror movies to me, me. It's like, I feel like it puts me in that mode of and just because of so many of the little moments, like in this one, like what worked for me, I just get to so many moments, you know?
Yeah.
And like those things make me feel like almost like I'm a kid watching a horror movie where it's just, oh great, I just love this all. I love this world. I love this character. So since I'd be happy to own the box set, I suppose that would make this and kind of all the other ones a buy it technically.
You're retconning your last episode.
I literally can't remember what I think I was just being indecisive. I don't remember if I said anything, but I think that's where I gotta land.
All right. It's fair.
Yeah. It's fair enough.
Fair enough.
Okay. Summary.
Oh.
There is no God!
Oh,
that's the first line of the film over black. That's what brings us in.
Poor nun Maureen.
Yes.
I wanted to call her Mary. I wanted to call her Marianne.
Okay, but just kind of a summary, shorter one. Sorry, that's like we shouldn't just retell the movie here. I said the first line. So basically, it's a month after Norman has gotten back.
They really just jammed it in. He got a haircut?
Yeah, he's gotten a haircut. It's the big news for the summary in that month. He's kind of... So after he has a new mother figure back...
Right. He kills Mrs. Spool. Mrs. Spool.
Yes.
Oof. Kills her. Dead. Now he's got a new mother.
Yeah.
And he's living life. He's living it up.
Yeah.
He's living the old Psycho life.
It's like we get to see Norman status quo for the first time.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's fun to see. Norman status quo with his mother back in his life after being just let out from the insane asylum in the events of the second one.
Yep. And, and then our nun, our cold open nun, through various reasons, stumbles her way into his life.
Right.
And
so
that is triggering.
It's sort of this threefold, an influx of three characters going on. We got the sort of love interest that reminds him of Marion Crane.
Right.
Coming into his life.
Initials.
And she is just as repressed as he is, so they actually do have a sort of budding romance going on.
Yeah.
And then we have the Snoopy investigative reporter who's interested in killers who have been let go. And then we have Dwayne.
Jesus
Who's
Christ.
this horrible human being.
Dwayne Duke.
Dwayne Duke, who's exactly how he sounds, who much to Maureen's dismay, shows up.
Gets a job.
Yeah, gets a job at the motel of her new potential beau.
Yeah, and then the rest of the movie is like basically exactly what you would assume it would be in a way. In that it's like, let's do the greatest hits of Psycho.
But it
has other stuff, don't get me wrong, but they really, like, you get your sort of quintessential, the things that you think about when you think about a Psycho movie, they lock into.
Well, it's fun because it is like him in his full mode kind of for the first and only time in any Psycho movie,
right?
Where it's not like, okay, he's normal Norman fighting off questionably uncertain of his sanity.
And
like
we're not uncertain of him. We know exactly who he is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, he wins.
He wins.
Sort of.
He does finish an arc in this one.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, no, I think he does.
Yeah. He gets to go through some things.
You get some
good.
catharsis. Mm-hmm. We get all of our sort of our players from Psycho 2, the cop.
Yeah.
The chef from the diner. The waitress, the same waitress from the diner, she's right back in it. She has like one line.
Yeah. Get them all back.
Yeah. And I don't think that was the deputy. This guy was fucking great. There's a deputy in the scene where the cop shows up to like question Norman, and he just feels so weird and out of place.
Oh yeah.
And I can't remember I doubt he's in Psycho 2.
I don't remember.
But man, is he a funny character. For about maybe 45 seconds.
But made an impression on you.
He sure did.
Sounds like.
So I want to see the spin-off about him.
Okay. Should we get into what worked?
That's it? We don't need to say anything else?
I mean, our summaries used to be a lot shorter.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
we're just leaning into it.
Do you want to say anything else?
No.
Then does that mean you are ready for our next section?
I am. I mean, I almost just fell right into it talking about Deputy Depp.
All right, then. Here we go. What worked?
What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
What did work for you, Ryan?
Well,
what worked for you?
That opening line that I already said worked for me. I think that just says it all right there.
That opening scene almost feels like a different world. It's so good.
Oh, it's so good, you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks so fucking good.
This whole movie looked amazing.
Yeah.
It looked like a kind of, dare I say, like a Kubrick shot, just that has a very nice, pleasing veneer to it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it, yeah.
What I'm about to say, I'm going to have to revisit, but specifically the style and the shot selection is really, really, even more than Kubrick-y, it's very, very much like taking some of the best things from Hitchcock movies, other Hitchcock movies, and really leaning in on that look. The bell tower church sort of scene it's Vertigo. I mean, it feels like that movie. There's shots of Norman and of Maureen in the car, the way it's framed, the way they used green screen behind them, or probably blue screen.
Even the last shot of the movie of him in the car is straight up
that
framing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as we discovered, because it right as it started and after the cold open sort of happens, I was like, this looks fucking amazing. Who directed it?
Okay, we're on a few different things here. We'll cover them all. Beginning, how it's shot, and then what you just said, which you said in the summary, the sort of nods to the original or getting stuff that is pure Psycho. Okay, so what worked for me so much in it about this one is that it wasn't just doing them all again, like just to do them, just as a kind of throwaway whatever. It felt like it was a real, like, come full circle kind of thing, where there's always a certain spin on it, where like, okay, if that was him in his 20s or whatever, now here he is again, and he can't have that life forever, so he's kind of, you know, everything is like, I guess the example, like an easy example of what I'm getting at is he goes in as the mother to murder Maureen because she's in the shower, and instead she's already attempted to commit suicide rather than just it's the same scene from before.
No, that's true. I think in similarly to how Psycho 2 kind of sort of led us in the direction of things that we were familiar with, but then really kind of took a left turn. This feels like we're on the same road as the first movie.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just, this is a weird, I don't know why I'm making this analogy, but it's like the signposts that you're used to seeing are overgrown or are whatever, like maybe they're broken off.
Yes.
And so it's like we're on the same road. We're just seeing it from a probably a different direction, or B, just a different time.
Which is
things have happened.
Why for me it being like so 80s works for me, because it's like you're trying to hold on to 1960 here, Norman world psychosis. Sorry, it's 86 and it's beating in on your door, and the aesthetics of the film themselves in a way that sort of functions to say all that.
Yeah, and just from a writing standpoint, they've done a smart thing by having Dwayne exist in this movie, right? Because he is, in a way, representative of the 80s cliche version of what you might see as like a psycho.
Yeah.
And Norman is, it causes conflict for him, right? Because he is so buttoned up and trying to kind of relive his old life.
You reminded me of something I thought while watching it that I wanted to say. What works so much for me is like Dwayne he's kind of the perfect foil for Norman Bates, because he is all the character traits that Norman most hates and doesn't embody, or you could say isn't in touch with himself. Like he's everything, and same within Psycho 2, the guy who's managing the motel in that one,
Dennis Franz.
Yeah, Dennis Franz. Yeah, it's like both of these guys are just the epitome of driving Norman to sort of hatred, almost, of how could a person be so sleazy and disgusting and everything wrong with the world, you know,
unscrupulous.
Yeah, which puts him against his morals of just sort of challenges his good old boy morals, almost, you know.
It's cool because it is a fine line, right? Like seeing Dwayne be just the fucking creeperest of creeps in the car with Maureen initially, where he literally says something like, "What? Oh my God! What is the fucking line?"
Yeah,
it's
so
the greatest line. He
tries to rape her.
Oh, yeah, he tries to rape her, and then he fucking shames her for getting out of the car. He's like, "Oh, you instead of going, you could have been coming," and it's like, you're the worst fucking person ever.
But then what I liked is that moment almost played for me like it felt like it was going to be like a Friday the 13th movie where we almost never see this character again, Dwayne, or something, you know, where it's just kind of this weird aside, like setting up Maureen's character.
Yeah, it's like you expect, the following scene to be him on the side of the road with a flat tire changing it, being like, God fucking damn my life. And then like Norman just cuts his head off.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're
exactly.
like, ha,
but
got
that's
him.
what really got one of the things that really worked for him in this movie was on all sorts of different levels. And I thought of you with this one, something you liked, Tim, is this sort of a lot of setup and payoff where it wasn't just, it made it feel less throwaway that he was a horrible person. It was sort of, as I said, like became perfect for being Norman's foil.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just, it's smart.
Yeah. But other
things.
ways, like even in setup payoff things, I noticed just, Dwayne being an asshole overall. It's the one I just said. The whole like his guitar thing of, oh, watch the guitar. And then his death scene gets beaten with it. And then like says, watch the guitar then. And then even in that same scene, you had a good setup payoff of Woody Woodpeckers on the TV. And it just kind of gives this whole weird, like kind of almost David Lynch, aesthetic to the whole thing.
Yeah, that was freaky. With the like him with like all the nudie magazine clippings.
Oh yeah, so
like,
good.
And then like putting them on the lamp so that everything's in this wash of sort of pink and purple and red. Like what?
We have to get to that scene more, but
okay.
I just wanted real quick, the sort of setup payoff I was talking about was then at the end of that you have Woody Woodpecker laughing. At the appropriate
that's
moment.
So right. Yeah, that was cool.
Like,
because Norman's basically laughing about the whole thing, right? Standing over him.
Yeah. He's hit him with the guitar and defeated him.
But even further to sort of bring the connection of the guitar around, when Norman is driving Dwayne's body to the swamp, Dwayne's not dead. And uses a guitar string to try and strangle Norman. That's what causes him to fly into the swamp.
It was a
guitar string, yeah.
Talk about more too, just sort of playing off the old one, but taking it a step further. It's doing it, but then doing it more. Okay, we know he has this old routine. Put the car in the swamp.
I fucking love the car in the swamp. Scare.
So then we have it. Oh no, the guy Jeff Fahey, Dwayne, he's still alive. And then we get to go into the swamp.
It's to me, that's just a sort of a very fundamental, terrifying thing. You're in a car that's underwater.
Yeah.
You're fucked. You're so fucked. It's so scary. I also almost drowned when I was a kid, so like it's very visceral for
I've had
me.
a couple underwater scares too.
Oh, they're the worst.
Yeah. So there's Tim,
I know, it's
two
hard
things
not
I
to
want to
just-
go off of with that. Do you want to talk about why that swamp thing worked for me, or more about the scene with Dwayne?
Let's stay in the swamp.
Okay, so staying in the swamp for me, that was also emblematic of almost like how the second one was doing, where it's like we kind of get to see the house a bit more, see these iconic locations and more, but a way that doesn't undermine the original, but feels like it is true to the spirit somehow.
Yeah.
Just how that felt being underneath the swamp. It's like we've built up this mystique of the swamp or whatever, and then to see it like how it looks underneath there, underwater, was it was fun. It was cathartic in a way.
It is a dump.
Yeah.
That's, I think, this fucking scariest thing is like under the surface of this thing that we've seen a bunch of times is just junk.
Yeah.
It's just shit that's been thrown in there. And not even necessarily by Norman.
The sort of
like there's a bike down there. It's like, is that a callback to anything?
The heavy but effective metaphor of a swamp,
Yeah.
In storytelling.
And then, of course, we get a very classic kind of scare of him coming upon the previous death, the previous kill of his that he's dumped down there, the girl that Dwayne picks up. And then subsequently is a huge piece of shit too.
Oh my God.
Like that girl, man, she of all the deaths in Psycho movies, she really got it.
Right.
Like,
what a night.
undeserved.
But yeah, sorry, that swamp. So the surprise tussle, the setting, but just, how that was an example of, for me, doing more of seeing as like there are some new establishing shots of this one. They were my favorite in any of the films. Just these really cool, still kind of true to Hitchcock, you could say, establishing shots of like the sort of old, what is it, not like a birdhouse or clock or something outside. I think there was the angle of seeing like the table out front.
Oh,
Just all
yeah.
these little details that were really neat.
Yeah, I mean, it felt to me like Anthony Perkins, who I think we mentioned, who directed it. That was a thrilling surprise for me. Where he did some real deep dive homework on Hitchcock's like aesthetic and not just to copy shots, but to just figure out what lens he used a lot, why he would choose certain angles, things like that. Because like, yeah, there's I guess it would be probably a like a technocrane or something, like a crane shot, jib shot.
I read it was a new crane or something that they
okay.
really utilized. Yeah.
Man, it fucking feels so good. But like using that very deep focus wide lens to like creep up to the house just feels
Give it
Hitchcockian.
that gothic imagery more so.
Yeah, so all that stuff it's just nice.
Well, talking about then two prongs of I think what did make it uniquely a Anthony Perkins film versus just an extension of a Hitchcock film. Do you want to use the Dwayne death scene as the segue for the first prong, or go back to the beginning of There Is No God? Because I want to do both. Which one first?
Let's talk about Dwayne first, since we were already touching on it.
Dwayne's emblematic. That whole scene, that whole death scene, as you said, him naked, but with like these colored lamps covering his crotch and stuff. The music, which we learned was like an MTV music video, that's super hokey. All that just hits at this like camp value, this I call it sleaze camp, that just feels so must be Anthony Perkins.
Yes.
Kind of just, he just loves it, you know?
Well, you know what it reminds me of, and is sort of the underground, like the underground gay club scene aesthetic that still is sort of like touted. If like I worked in a gay bar for a long time, so I was in that neighborhood, and you get invited to parties and whatever, and like that is sort of that era, the 80s, before anybody could be out, and before, well, they could, but it was sort of bridging the gap of this time of liberation, right? And there is this nostalgia to that time.
Yeah.
It's like, and now it's whatever. Somebody cares, but most people don't give a shit. But you see it now, kind of the homage to that era in certain clubs or bars where they're really like playing it up. Like the place I worked in was formerly a quote unquote video bar. When I was there, it was just a lounge. It's just a bar. But they really did pay tribute to that era a lot. And it is so that like 80s MTV, like leather scene, like all, punk rock was a big thing. And there's this sort of amalgamation of like the drag world and the leather world and the disco world, and like all these things kind of lived together. Right. And I feel like that's what we're getting, a little glimpse of that aesthetic in Anthony Perkins. Is like, those are his scenes where he's like, I'm going to do a thing. Yeah. And I think it's cool.
If it's helpful for context, I know Anthony Perkins exclusively dated or had relationships with men until his like early 40s or so. So if quite literally, he was probably exposed to that scene you're
I think
describing.
that's part of what I think it was part of an aesthetic that he knew about and probably thought was fun.
And Tim...
And I bet you it was fun.
Yeah. It worked for me.
Yeah, because that scene is just so fucking... It's just... I don't know. It's just got its own fucking vibe going on.
Yeah, I love it. It's so great. And sort of then the other prong to mention, but you could say how this crosses over with that campness is, and this is what he's explicitly said about it, is approaching Psycho 3 like a black comedy, a sort of darkest of dark comedies. You know, how you can sort of look at any horror from that angle. But I think something about that opening line that we've already said, there is no God. It just puts you in the blackest of the black comedy, you know, not necessarily the comedy side so far, but it's like, okay, this is at least a quite literal starting point.
Well, and I think there's always something to be said, and where you find comedy and some of the best comedy, in my opinion, is that black comedy that is really pointing at the authorities or the authority figures or the systemic authoritarianism of organizations in the world. So what I mean by that is like the church is a good example of one where it's like, you know, they hammer home this idea, and if you think otherwise, like you get your, not literally, but maybe you get your ass kicked, right? Like that scene where she's about to fucking kill herself, and the nun who comes up, who you think like nuns, they're caring and empathetic, and they're lovely people. I mean, ask my dad, maybe he has a different opinion. He went to Catholic school. But by and large, that's what we think when we think nuns. And then Maureen says there is no God, and the woman she turns on her like fucking that. She's like, you fucking heathen. She's like, how dare you? You're gonna fucking pay for that. And it's like, yo.
Right. Well, no, and then she accidentally, you know, or not, you know, to sort of causes the death of this other nun falling to her death.
Yeah, that nun is like, she pulls a Frau Brookwald again and has a spaz out at the least opportune moment, and it costs her, you know.
But then there's the other nun who then comes up and is like, you're going to hell for this.
Right, that's right.
Super quickly, I loved the pacing of the nun falling. That was an incredible fall. Like how it was edited.
Yeah.
And like those shots of like, oh, here's the next sort of layer of stairs she's falling down.
Yeah.
And just the timing, and oh God, it was such a good fall.
Well, and remember when it was happening, like it's so well timed that like I even like, as you know, she's hitting the ground, which they don't show. I was like, splat.
Yeah. It was just something horrific about like she could have just had a moment to scream there but didn't, and it's just kind of like it was fast enough to not scream but prolonged enough just to sort of sit in the horror of it. Yeah.
Well, it makes me think too, like when you're looking at sort of the metaphor of psychoticness or whatever, like the things that drive us crazy, quote unquote, there's a nice, I don't know, maybe this is me, for me there's a nice kind of connection to the oppressiveness of the church, the potential oppressiveness of the dogma of church, and Norman's mother's point of view, right? It's this authority figure saying you can't be or feel what I think are kind of normal, natural things, like question the world, like have emotions, feel desire, like all these things. They're a good kind of mirror to each other in a way. I think
both of them are having that voice in their life, you know, yelling at them to not, and that's what you could say too. Like Norman's trigger to kill is sexual urges,
right?
Like that's what it's about.
Yeah, for sure. And so that whole thing of like, don't, you know, if you do this, you're a bad person.
Right.
Like that whole idea is just so fucked up. And it really fucks with people's brains, right? Like it's not a healthy way to, you know, like oppressing somebody's natural, like, impulses, generally speaking, is not really that healthy of a thing.
Well, hopefully we don't have to proselytize that to our audience very much.
Probably not. But it's just smart. Like, it's smart to give this other character a very different but very similar kind of background in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're like a match made in heaven for each other, really.
Yep.
And
I will say, I was honestly expecting her to become, like, not the bad guy, but to have her own psychotic break.
Yeah, like she is spurred to kill at some point.
Right, but it dawns on me now that would maybe feel too kind of samey as Psycho 2.
No, I think it was good to show that some people's reactions will skew towards homicide, others are suicide, and she's on the suicide.
There you go. Yeah.
What kept up, you were talking about, the black comedy, the dark comedy. What were you saying about it? It was
just
like a critique, a satire.
Yeah.
I mean, then it does it in other ways too, not just in the oppressive whatever. But then immediately on to catching up with Norman the first time. I mean, how perfect just to strike the tone of like, just we don't even see his face yet. And there's the tracking shot of like he's stuffing his bird and like with a spoon, and then uses the same spoon to like dollop some Skippy peanut butter onto Ritz crackers. And it's like, Mr. Norman Bates, ladies and gentlemen, this is
where he's at.
This is like pure him, it just kind of left alone to his own devices. Peanut butter, Ritz cracker, which I liked is connected to in the second one offering. You want a peanut butter sandwich?
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
He's like, oh, forget the bread, just Ritz crackers.
Doesn't he do that in the first one too? He brings
it's a
Marion
peanut butter
Crane,
and jelly, right?
He brings Marion Crane sandwiches, but I feel like it's off. It's like not. It's not something we.
Is there lettuce in it or something?
It's like peanut butter and cheese or something, and it's not that. But it's something just a little like.
Is it a cheese sandwich?
It might be.
Yeah,
I don't remember, but yeah, there is a sandwich thing in the beginning of Psycho.
I like how they've applied food to sort of tracking Norman's character and being emblematic of him, like in the candy corn obsession he has in this. It's so good. Yeah. Something just works about it.
And I think what I think is fun about it is that at the end of the day, Norman is sort of just Arrested Development, right? Like he's kind of like a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And so doing these things kind of hammers home that's his state of mind. Like he never really learned to be that much of a self-sufficient actual human being. Mm-hmm. He's kind of in this weird netherland of 12-year-oldness and adultness.
I mean, yeah, get just Skippy on crackers.
Exactly.
That's all he's Ritz crackers.
And like you see how disgusting the house has become.
Oh, the dust. There's that one shot of the dust where you would have
even the kitchen where it's just his shits all over the place. It's just like, ooh, he really needed a caretaker of some sort. Yeah. And just doesn't have it. So it's just furthering along this idea of like how kind of lost he is.
All these supportive women in his life who just happen to show up in the time span of a couple months just keep getting killed off.
I know. God, can we talk about the we should have talked about it in the last episode, but the shovel hit on Mrs. Spool.
That's something you want to mention about Psycho too, yeah.
They re-show it in this.
Okay, so valid to mention it.
Honestly, I feel like they might have killed the actor in real life. Because the shovel hits so hard, and like her wig fucking like almost just explodes. He hits it so hard, and then they cut immediately to another angle of it where it's clearly a dummy. And I'm like, this should be reversed, right? Like, the hard hit should be hitting the dummy, not the other way around. and then you cut to the actor falling over. But dude, I don't know. I'm concerned, and I'm gonna have to do some research.
You remind me of something else I loved in this one was, I mean, kind of his face in that moment of the sort of confidence and certitude in which he hits her with that shovel. So to segue to his performance in this one, which is a little different. Coming off that directly, that's the only moment, or say moments like that, like after he kills Dwayne, or I shouldn't say kills, but sort of stuns him and is on the successful attacker side. Yeah. He switches to this sort of uber confident, well-spoken, no stumbling, talking over himself or hesitating to talk. He's taken on his, it feels like sort of unabashed, Norman falling through if he's an introvert, I
hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, he kind of actualizes.
Yeah, when he's in control and sort of acting out whatever that mother's worldview is of making the world right or whatever.
Right. But here's a question. In all of the kills, he's Norma, right?
Yeah.
Except for that one, right? Is he Norma when he kills Dwayne?
No, he's pissed because Dwayne stole his mother.
Right. So that's really interesting. It's like the one time where Norman,
Yeah.
not Norman under the influence of his mother, but Norman in I'm going to protect my mother, becomes this other kind of self-actualized character.
Yeah.
Knows he's not resisting or like in battle with the Norma character or persona and having this split personality thing going on. Now he's just like, no, I'm standing up for myself.
Right.
Which happens again later.
I'd say not himself. He's standing up for like the boy. He's in boy's best friend and his mother mode.
Yeah.
All those times, you know?
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, that's cool.
And we see, though, that contrasts his performance in the rest of his film, where he's, out of all the films, he's especially just sort of has difficulty speaking or seems especially nervous which I think the first time I saw these films, I wasn't as crazy about it. Like, I think I thought it was a bit much compared to the second one that I was just coming off of, where it seemed to contrast strongly with that in a way that threw me off. But now I really enjoy it because it sort of shows the trajectory of, this is the Norman Bates who, the 22 years where he was recovering, now that's all out the window. Like,
right.
They should be different. That Psycho 2 was a Norman Bates who has, quote unquote, recovered as much as he could, has a sense of his world. And then the third one is, no, if we saw this guy in 1960 continue on this exact same path, his lack of confidence, whatever, would only be exacerbated that much by the time he's in his whatever age he's supposed to be here.
Yeah, 40s?
Yeah,
Ish.
late 40s maybe.
Yeah. Wow. No, it's cool. And on his performance, so one other sort of thing is, it again is feeling like if you go from, obviously we haven't talked about one really, but we all know one. One is this young man that you're sort of referencing that has an unsureness to him. And then, like, the confidence is really a different persona, like when he's killing. Two, is exactly what you're saying again, is this massively conflicted, I'm trying to be a different person. And and external forces are basically causing me to not get there. And then this is sort of like, all bets are off, I know who I am kind of thing. But in the performance, he does also do a thing where I feel like Perkins is embracing the idea a little bit more of like maniacal output. Mm-hmm. Like, you see him like get like crazy, quote unquote, crazy eyes more, and like where it is just his current state. So he feels more borderline caricature, but like more like, yeah, no, I am crazy. Yeah, well, I'm going to lean into that.
It's more, I mean, that's just for me, that's the split of Psycho 2 he's worried about his mother coming back. Psycho 3, his mother is back. This is Norman 3. Sorry, this is Norman with with his mother back in the picture.
Yeah. But it's fun to see him really, the actor really kind of play out that arc and be
Anthony Perkins
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be like, no, this is who I am. I'm crazy.
Well, I mean,
I like that stuff.
To jump ahead,
even the poster, it's like it's right there.
To jump ahead, since it's kind of on his performance, but I love that the last shot of the film is him doing, he was saying his crazy eyes. It's exactly that. It's like he's full on psycho mode, again, sitting.
Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier, sitting in the back of the car, like same, framed like the originals, and then goes as far as, again, like his sort of just forcing aesthetic onto it. Like, even though you have shots in this film where it's like no exterior lighting, looks kind of almost like, whatever film, you have all these, like a couple light changes happen to get it so it's just this obscured kind of half-lit face.
Yep.
And he's petting his mother's hand, and he just does the psycho look.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to be like, oh, it's so forced, it's hokey or whatever. It's stuck, but he channels the evil and like does it. It's so affecting. I loved it. I just loved it, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, it's watching him really embrace. I mean, the fact that he directed this, like, I think does wrap it around for me too, where he's really embracing this thing, and being like, because I think I have no idea actually about his sort of point of view on being this character, because it's like, I imagine it probably had a large impact on the trajectory of his career as a whole, right? It's like, how do you get out of being known as Anthony Perkins?
You just accept it
from
at a
Psycho
point.
Right. And this feels like he's like, you know what? I'm all in.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Right.
Let's make 3.
And there's something about
all directed.
Yeah. The last shot of him making that face, that's exactly that. He's like, well, this is, will be a historical film, as far as film history is concerned, character. And how do we just go all out with emblemizing that in a single final shot, Yeah. Because once we get to the fourth one, you'll see it feels almost like it's more an afterthought, or somehow just, even though it's definitely the fourth one, it's still somehow outside of these 3, So I don't know, I'll just speak to it more as like I look at this as the real kind of moment. The Norman Bates culmination moment of all the films.
Well, and can we talk about the actual sort of catharsis moment of the movie?
Yes. Wait, I have a quick question though about that last shot. What was your take on it? Was it that he says he's finally free,
right? Yet
even though he's being put away forever, and he's just killed his mother, which is maybe what you want to talk about. Killed, quote unquote, again.
Right. Maybe
we should talk about that. I'm basically just wondering if you can end up answering. I don't know. What were the implications of that ending also is what I'm wondering. Because he's went through an arc, supposedly.
Okay. So here's how I'm going to try and pick it apart. So the moment of Maureen, I just want to call her Mary, Marion, but so when Maureen...
Marion, Mary, and Maureen.
Fucking hell. So when she dies because of Mrs. Bates.
Yep.
Norman is distracted by Mrs. Bates, essentially, and God damn it, Maureen does the fall down the stairs and gets the statue arrow in the back of the head. Okay.
And...
So
I think you got to paint that picture a little more though, because it's like, wait, what? How did she fall? It's that they're holding hands,
right?
Norman and her, and Norman hears, quote unquote, his mother call for him in the other room, and kind of turns and lets go, and just that little release, just makes her slip a centimeter,
which is so good, right? Like just from an aesthetic point of view, or just a story point of view. The idea that this woman who's been through she's had a couple of real bad days, let's be honest. And she sees this person, Norman, who is kind of, he's a pretty odd guy. And she's like, no, I'm going to.
But she's a pretty odd girl.
Yeah, I feel this connection with him. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to go make sure he's okay, even though he's telling me to fuck off. And she gets in there and she's like being gentle. And like, there's some intimacy to this like holding hands thing, and then it all goes to shit. And she falls in we see it the same way we see the detective from Psycho 1 fall down the stairs. It's a very odd camera move, and it's a blue screen, whatever thing, but it's great. And her dying by the hand of Cupid's arrow is pretty on the nose, but awesome.
You see it in all other movies.
It's there, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, what am I getting at? So, all of that is just a really well constructed thing, and Norman flipping out or whatever. So when we get back around to Mrs. Bates being kidnapped and then back, and then you have this fight where you think that the reporter is going to get killed by Norman, and he ends up swinging the knife down on his mother. Like, there's this massive conflict of like, is he listening to his mother, or is he going to take over his own whatever? Mm-hmm. What would you call that? His own
What?
Like, he's himself as opposed to his mother. So his desires override the voice of his mother in this moment,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
And that's catharsis for him, right? He can finally be rid of her, so to speak. So I think that's actually one of the bigger sort of like overarching sort of.
Wait, did you actually mention it? Him stabbing the corpse?
So he starts, and the sawdust of the corpse that he's stuffed is just spraying everywhere instead of blood, which is cool.
We think he's gonna kill the detective, right?
The woman, the journalist,
journalist.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. You think, because they even have the shot of the shadow of his hands and her hands, and she's like grabbing the knife. Their arms are up in the air. It's a really cool shot. And I feel like it's in the first movie, isn't it? In the movie, it's in the first movie at the very end, right? Mm-hmm. When the boyfriend grabs his arms and the light is it's Wayne. I think we'll find out when we watch it. But anyway, that whole sequence is really fucking good. And then then he comes down on the mom and kills, quote unquote, her corpse.
Kills the corpse.
But he kills the sort of the metaphor of her. Yeah. Which is awesome. Literally, he's cutting her head off, which is also great.
Yeah.
So, that's all to say that when he gets arrested and he gets put in the car, I believe when the cop is saying, you're going to be in there for the rest of your life, I believe Norman says, but
at least I'll finally be free. I'll be free at least, or something like that.
Yeah, I will be free.
Yeah.
Or it's something like that, right? But it's not that I am. Mm-hmm. I think it's that this will help me to be kind of, it's like, it's a possibility. Like, it's a goal. But it's not a definitive thing.
Well, I saw it as like, my possible read on it was a turn of like, now tragically, because he's had this whole life being a psycho because of the influence of his mother, even in his mother's quote unquote death in his mind, is she still having power over him. Like, now he's psychotic about that he's killed his mother finally. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And so, like, no matter what, it's like you do, or you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, kind of thing is kind of maybe the direction it was saying, is like he's been permanently screwed by his mother, basically. Like, he can't defeat her,
right?
Even in defeating her, because like defeating her was so important to him, that means that she was always still going to have that hold on him. He can't just walk away,
But it seems to me like his feeling of, it's almost like he's acknowledging that this is the right thing and a good thing for him.
Yeah.
And so saying like, I'll finally be free is like a hopeful.
But it's the difference I'm getting as between, he doesn't go and I'm finally free and kind of wistfully looks out the window.
No, no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point too. That it's like, if this goes, if we get me away from the house and you get me away from her, like, maybe there's a chance for me to be free.
Right.
It's kind of how I read it.
Well, how do you read like him keeping and petting the mother's hand.
So that's the. I mean, he is two sides of a coin, right?
Yeah.
That's his character, right? And I think that essentially these two moments are the two sides of the coin again, insofar as he can verbalize and like consciously state what the good or positive outcome should be or could be for him and hope for that. But the other side of the coin is that he's holding on to her hand under his shirt.
Can kind of read it as he's now in his mind in being someone who has committed matricide and feels good about it. Like that's his new form of psycho.
That's interesting.
Like that's because he has it's just her hand, he's caressing it now almost. He's like he has control over it. It's sort of it's
so fucked up.
He's acting as if he does, but because of how he's acting, mother's still winning in the end. That's what I'm getting at.
And I just think a hand and holding your mom's hand.
Yeah.
It's it should be this thing of being protected and cared for, but it's like that's what we do as kids, right? Like we reach out for our parents' hands.
But now he's like, I've finally won.
That's interesting. Has he finally won, or has he just really now?
He hasn't. I'm saying he's saying that. I don't think he has one.
Sure, but does he believe that now he's really, really actualized in the good way, like into the psycho, like he's really embracing like this is who I am, and that's why that last beat is sort of a crazy smile where it's like,
yeah, kind of.
Now that she's gone,
right?
It's like the split personality of the psycho and Norman fighting each other is no longer two pieces; they're into one
because he's killed.
He's full on.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've now, in a way, I guess you could almost say, in killing his mother, he also killed Norman.
What do you mean?
So he's two things,
yeah.
And those two things are two sides of the same coin, and so you can't kill one without killing the other.
I feel like he's killed innocent Norman.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Exactly. The actual Norman that is like a good. Rooted in good.
Well, it's because
and so now they've into each other, and now
her being real in his mind, that mother has, as I said again, driven him to matricide. Right. Like I think it's interesting as far as the sort of how it's playing.
That's it. That's how this all fucking began in the first place, right? As a character. She drove him to kill her. He fucking poisons her.
But in that reality still, she's still alive.
Right.
So now she's actually dead for the first time.
And so is his 12-year-old self.
Right. But what's interesting is how
because now he's Psycho Norman without the mother.
Yeah.
He's his own. He's now actualized into this new thing.
Yeah.
Which is full force embracing who he is. He can no longer blame his mother for who he is.
Well, yes. I was going to say what was interesting, I agree, is he how it works with the audience kind of almost where we're at and how we want catharsis, where we're almost feeling with him, yeah, finally, he's killing his mother. He's winning.
Right.
But then if the movie's kind of trying to, I don't want to say go as far as saying something, but kind of bringing something up, it's, oh no, like, but maybe that killing your mother, no matter what, even though she ruined his life and is crazier than he is, you could argue in a way, or as crazy, I'd say. Yeah, you get where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not good for him. I mean, it may feel good in the moment, but it's like, it's kind of, we talked about this a little bit in the last episode. It's like that impulse to protect, people that are close to you. Like you can see yourself going after somebody who hurt somebody you love and killing them. But like in the moment, I'm pretty sure most of us, if we got to that point of like actually fucking killing somebody out of rage and like anger over them hurting somebody we cared about, we would still be like, ooh, fuck.
Right, that's the thing. It's not like he just sits there and goes, now
he doesn't get to
go,
fucking sit back and have a cocktail.
Yeah, he doesn't go, oh, I'm finally free. All that's behind me.
Right.
No. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's pretty
stuff.
Intense.
There's a lot going on in there. For just being a kind of slasher movie, I guess, in a sort of mid-'80s slasher movie too, it was fun. We did kind of have a high body count.
Yeah.
Because there's the woman that the douchebag takes home, and then the other young woman who's just there partying with all like the football fans or whatever.
And your favorite part of the entire movie, when the cop eats bloody ice.
Yeah. My God. We were just talking about that
So gross.
separately.
So gross.
It was talk about like, you hear the rule of threes. This was one of the most like perfect rule of three moments I've ever seen, where it's like, and also for how incredibly unlucky Norman is in his life, of like, here's this other woman that could potentially be his love, and just because he like lets go, like she falls in the almost more just kind of tragic happenstance, ridiculous kind of ways. But then you also have him lucking out and like kind of getting away with these crimes for the films, where the cop, so good. I mean, if you've seen it, at first we see him reach and essentially touch the hand of his last victim in the ice chest, and then reaches it again. He's close to the blood. He's eating the ice cubes, sucking on the ice cubes, which it's funny because like people do that, but you don't see it in film very much as a character quirk. So I just like that too. And then finally he reaches to like where it's the bloodiest spot and puts that right in his mouth. And Norman's like watching it the whole time.
Norman's like creeping from behind. He's like peeking out behind. Going, fucking great.
God, I love that.
Yeah. So there's probably a list somewhere of the kills. But
right. And then after those two, you have the, Dwayne, who drowns after their fracas.
I feel like we're missing one. Are we missing one? Well, Norman doesn't kill the nun in the beginning, but that's the first one.
I feel like it's just the two young women. Yeah. And then...
that's right, because there's sort of a false death with Maureen having cut her wrist, where you think he's going in. Well, he is going in to kill her. He's in full mother mode, like he's wearing the dress and everything, and then he discovers her. That sequence, even though it seemed very obvious to me that that's how it was going to play out. Mm-hmm. I still really enjoy it. Just because I caught wind of what it would probably be, didn't undercut that I was accurate. Mm-hmm. Meaning maybe 15 seconds before we discover she's cut her wrist, I was like, oh, she's going to be in the bathtub with her wrist cut, isn't she? Yeah. And so, but how it plays out and how it gets into sort of like her being in the hospital and Norman being this sort of like, he's the savior thing. Yeah. Is fucking cool.
She kind of conflates him with the Virgin Mary or something.
Right. Yeah. I like all of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I love their whole like their courtship would be romance too. Yeah. Where it's like they dance together and then they like make out but don't sleep with each other.
They go to dinner.
Yeah, they have the nice like dinner, and then they dance, and it's like, Norman, you get to like dance with the girl at the prom you never had. Like, it's so sweet.
Right. He like got her clothes dry cleaned.
Oh, you look beautiful, Maury. He doesn't say that, but
might as well.
Oh, but do you remember like fucking Jeff Fahey, Dwayne, like spurring him on? Like there's that moment where he just is so like nervous around her and just doesn't know what to do at all, or he just doesn't say anything, and like I just love that performance. He's just like,
Dwayne's like, go get her, Norman.
Yeah, and he just can't say anything and just looks at her. Oh, that was so good.
Oh my God.
But I guess if I to sum up that stuff, I just I'll say it again. I do really like their their would-be romance and the tragedy it ended with.
Yeah.
Getting to see Norman get a little bit of love. And her too. That's why I think that's the overall thing I'm trying to get at what worked is they specifically not just I liked their, but I liked it because they really are a match made in their little heaven.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever town this is.
We already mentioned, like, I loved it being a direct continuation from the second one of seeing the same characters at the diner and the diner itself. Mm-hmm. And then just sort of, I think it's a smart direction to take it where you say, okay, well, now that mother's back, what does that look like? You know, we don't think it would be very long before stuff explodes, which it does. So I think it was smart just to set it like a month later after the mother coming back.
Yeah.
Like how long with his mother back in the picture and these murders just happened is
right.
he really going to be around for?
Yeah, because you can't, well, you could, but I think it wouldn't work if you were to say 5 years later.
Yeah.
What's been going on for 5 years? He's just been fucking killing people and getting away with
exactly
it or
like
not?
It, like it was a good amount of time where you see a month is a long time when you're just killing and stuffing birds. But to be like, okay, he's just been killing and stuffing birds and eating Ritz crackers for 5 years would have been a little harder.
Oh my God.
To
Can
buy.
you imagine the amount of dust that would have been in that house?
Yeah, even more. Already kind of mentioned in how it was being shot of just getting to see more and talking about the swamp and all that. But there were just some, shooting how it was shot aside. There were moments and things that happened that I love that were like, oh, cool. Rather than kind of, again, ruining the Psycho mystique, were just, they didn't do it. I don't know. Nothing overstayed its welcome. Like as far as, I remember you got excited about the moment where we see him fighting back against his mother. We're like, okay, we explore a lot of like, yeah, it's good in the original. Like, don't show it. But where we are now, it works for the movie of sort of seeing what that looks like when he's transitioning to and from mother. Like, oh, how does that work exactly? Because he has to put on the outfit. Like, where does the shift happen? How does that look? So we get to see all that happening. So like we have an in-between moment where it's like his mother's coming through and he slices his hand. How does he do it again?
That is so fucked up. He is holding the knife, right? It's the big
He's holding the blade of the knife.
So he's got it in his hand and then he by the handle and then he grabs the blade so that the blade is on the inside of his knuckles, right? He's squeezing the blade.
Yeah.
And then he fucking punches the side table. So he's like fucking slamming the knife into his fingers.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I imagine that when the prop guy made that knife, it's like you make a fake knife and then you have the little like cutouts for each finger so that it like looks like it's going halfway in. Mm-hmm. God damn it. And they don't... he sort of is holding it and blood is sort of there, but they don't really... Do you know how fucked up your hand would be from that? All we see later, like a few scenes later, is he's got some Band-Aids on him. I'm like, no. Your fucking fingers would be like hanging off.
Oh, I've had worse. But just seeing that moment, him fighting back against her. That's why he does it. Seeing the moment where like... Okay, so when does he make it to the wig, the knife, and the dress? It's like at a certain point, the mother's voice calling him goes from the corpse to the outfit itself. So it's like her essence moves to the outfit. And so he's drawn towards by hearing the clothes or the knife and the wig. Yeah. Like that's how that looks.
Now, I was under the impression, or I am under the impression, that Anthony Perkins did the mother voice the whole time. Is that true?
I don't think so.
It's somebody else?
I was watching some other reviews. I think it's the same woman who kind of did the voice in all of them.
It's not Frank Oz?
It's not just Frank Oz doing it, no.
Feels very Frank Oz to me.
No, yeah, it's not Frank Oz.
Okay.
But Tim, you mentioned that, the mother talking. I think that's like dare I say, my favorite thing in all the Psycho films.
I mean, you dared.
I dare. The moment specifically where we see him speaking with that voice. on screen for the first time and only time in all the films. I mean, there's the end of the first one where he's yelling, you could say, where he's just kind of screaming maniacally.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't really count.
There's this one where there's this line, "Why can't you leave my poor son, my Norman, alone?"
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And you just see him grinning and saying that. And like to see his face saying that matched with this voice that is like, yeah. I mean, I guess if it was not done well at a certain level, you'd just be like, oh, this is a different person. But it's just kind of like freaky enough. Like you could imagine almost a psychosomatic thing happening to kind of distort his voice a little.
Oh yeah.
And just the way, and then the delivery of the line itself, I tried to just do it. It's like, she's not aggressively mad, just this sort of like even more intimidating, just like, why would you do that? Why would you harm me? You know, it's even more absurd. But just that single shot and line, I wish I could find better ways to explain why, but it's just the best thing.
I think you should make that your ringtone.
Why can't you leave my poor son, my Norman, alone?
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Tim.
And just the idea of fucking Dwayne taking the corpse.
Oh, right.
Like, the fucking thought process behind Dwayne, like this whole time,
if he wasn't a established rapist, like I may not have bought that. You know what I mean? Like, no, this guy's kind of unhinged enough, does whatever the hell he wants enough that I could easily see him just not being fazed by a corpse in order to get money.
Yeah, definitely. He sucks.
Yeah.
So he's actually a really good villain.
Oh yeah,
ultimately
it's perfect because it's not like the actual villain is Mother or himself, but it's the, as I said, maybe not villain but foil who kind of grows once he actually learns of Norman's doings and takes the mother corpse.
I just had a thought. There's one scene when it's the girl who... Is it the girl that gets put in the ice chest? I think it is. When he's trying to get away with her corpse, like her dead body. He's just killed her and he like throws her out the window.
Oh, yeah.
And then he picks her up and the revelers kind of run by and he hides her up against the wall like they're making out. But then I think it's her. He ends up kissing the dead corpse.
I think so. Does he?
Yes.
Forget.
And like, I remember just thinking like, well, this is new territory.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah. You're like, oh, a little necrophilia. Okay.
Yeah, like we're adding a thing. But then it never... So I guess it's just furthering along his kind of... He's motivated by his sexual impulses. That he wants this connection.
It feels kind of perfect, actually, for that character. That, like, if he's, up close with another body in that way... And you feel that like that pull almost and he feels it then even with a corpse and acts on it because
and it's because it's that oppressed thing.
Yeah,
like he's disallowed from having intimacy.
Yeah,
of any kind.
Right.
And so he does. It's just he doesn't.
It's not like she didn't just die. She just died. So
Yeah, but
still warm.
Maybe. Not after he puts her in the ice chest, that's for sure, you know what I'm saying? So it does make it does make sense that that's where his, pathology pushes him because he's been repressed, not oppressed so much.
Yeah, no, it's like
in this sexual way.
I buy it. It feels right. Yeah. They did that.
But it didn't become a thing, which I think is good.
Yeah.
It wasn't like then he's making out with every girl he murders after the fact.
Just the opportunity happened to present itself. The last thing I had in as far as this little, when I was talking about getting to see things for the first time that we haven't seen, I talked about the transitioning to and from Mother, the looking through the peephole, like we get again that iconic shot of kind of the eye up close to the hole, but we actually see him in full kind of watching, which we never had gotten before, I believe.
Okay.
Because it's always kind of, he's like in the original when he switches into spying psycho mode, it's kind of like, since he's so far from the sort of congenial Norman who we were just meeting in the motel, we don't see him. But this was like, now we're fully with him. We're exposed to his psychosis. So what does it look like when he's actually wrestling with himself?
Well, and for me, part of the issue with my memory of the first one is that in the Gus Van Zandt? Yeah. In the Gus Van Zandt one, they show Norman out crouched behind that peephole and actually masturbating.
Yeah, you hear it.
And so like that image exists and I can't remember if it's in the first one. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think it is, because I remember watching.
I think that's my favorite thing about the remake.
Just that moment.
Is that they go as far. It's like, okay, yeah, it's not in 1960 anymore. So what is he doing when he's watching her?
Right. Yeah. So I can't remember in the first one whether or not we actually see him.
But I'm pretty sure
the hole.
it felt unique.
It seems
to me.
right that we don't, because I was so surprised when you do in the remake.
Yeah, it felt new to me in this one when we see him watching on. Like, great, we've been with Norman enough now. Let's just see him let's see him wrestle with himself as much as possible. Right. Kind of expand from this original shot. I loved let's see, well, a few more things. Oh, how he made a little altar for Maureen. Like, remember when the investigator, the journalist, finds them after he's accidentally killed Maureen? Or however you want to put his death.
I know she shows up.
Like, so the journalist, she comes in, it's like all these candles are lit.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like lying there.
Yeah,
just
totally.
Like all... I just love that. It's great because, like, you know, like, that's who Norman is. Like, he thinks so much of her, is so in love with her. He just had to live in his, you know, in his own mind, just what would be the most beautiful little, you know, altar for her to set up. I really liked it. You know, he's not just going to put a sheet over her face.
No.
It's, this is a big deal for him.
I mean, it's cool because she is Marion Crane in a way, right? Like, that's what we're getting at. And he's, again, getting to kind of follow through with the thing that he wanted initially when he met Marion.
It's like he's getting a second chance.
Yeah. And then fucking his mom.
Just can't catch a break.
She really she's a real thorn in his side.
Oh, we can actually kind of mention, I did like how this one retconned it again.
I know.
So it took me a while to get what exactly was going on here. It's a little confusing, but if we were complaining in the last one, it's like, oh, it's kind of works for me in a way that, you know, that the Norma Bates wasn't his actual mother. It's whatever, not.
And Mrs. Poole.
Yeah. Spool. So now in this one we learned
Wait
Norma
a minute. I just had a thought.
What?
Do you think her name's Mrs. Spool because she's what do you call it? What's the expression? She's sewing a yarn.
Because she's telling a yarn.
It's a yarn of thread.
Maybe, Tim. I'm not gonna go as far as to say no. Maybe. Let's hope so.
Okay.
So how it retconned it again.
Yep.
Is no, Mrs. Spool isn't actually his real mother, like we were told in Psycho 2. She was the crazed. I mean, we know she's sisters with Norma.
Right.
And Norma is his biological mother, and Mrs. Spool killed the father
out of jealousy because Norma stole him from Mrs. Spool, I think.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. No. She wanted to steal him or something. My impression was she viewed Norman as like it was actually her son, but it's actually he's actually Norma's son.
Yes, my impression was that Norma and Mrs. Spool both liked the same guy. Mm-hmm. And that guy was into Mrs. Spool first, but then got with Norma.
Yeah.
And then Norma got pregnant.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Spool was so jilted that she was like, he fucking fucked my sister and got her pregnant, and I'm going to kill him, and that baby belongs to me. That's the baby I should have had with him.
So I guess Norma's maternal name is Spool, and Bates is the father?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be.
I don't know.
Is that too convoluted? It's a little convoluted.
It is. Like, when she's yelling it all at the end, I had no idea what she's saying. Like,
yeah, instead of saying...
brother's sister was actually in the... It's just like, what?
Instead of just saying, do you fucking nut? Stop swinging that knife at me.
Well, it makes sense that she's holds this kind of, clue to his past that could just jolt him in another way.
Right.
That she would use that as a defense. But as far as actual... that's not as far as it didn't work for me. So that's why I'm mentioning it now. Is just kind of funny. But I as I said, I liked that. It just became more confusing.
I just happened to look at this screenshot, and it's the Fairvale Inquirer, excuse me, Jesus. And the headline is "Sister Arrested in Bates Murder / Kidnapping, Child Unharmed in Love Triangle Tragedy."
Yeah.
So yeah, we're pretty much right.
Yep.
We got it.
I loved the music in this, Tim. Carter Burwell, who we mentioned, I forget if I mentioned, he did Being John Malkovich, and he did Blood Simple was what got him onto this one. He did a bunch of the Coen Brothers movies. He's kind of their go-to guy. But it's I don't know. It's if we had the Jerry Goldsmith score, literally, and it was just very Jerry Goldsmith score. I say that almost. It's just description. This one felt more appropriately horror. Yeah. Which is actually, I think, appropriate for the movie. This one is much more a slasher film. The last one was this guy struggling with his sanity kind of piece or whatever. But yeah, this one, it was sparse. It kind of had a mixed instrument feel. I don't know. It was exactly what it needed to be. I enjoyed it a lot.
I don't remember it enough to have a opinion, which means it's working.
Right. That's what that's all for to sure say it was working. Really working for me and matched if each of the Psycho movies is kind of its own beast.
Well, and really there was that, there's also that, there's a theme in this one that Norman is plunking out on the piano.
Yes. So that, that's the theme to the movie.
Okay.
He's playing the theme to the movie.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I think it's neat.
Yeah. Cool.
God, love the last shot again.
There are a lot of good shots in this movie.
Okay. I think this is my last thing, is my favorite shot that I have in the movie is when he gets the note from Dwayne posing as the mother, come to room 12 or whatever.
Right.
You have this long tracking shot of Norman walking from, the one side of the motel all the way across the walkway in front of it.
Yeah.
Along to the very last room that he's in. And it tracks with him the whole time. And it's like the motel feels so much longer than it actually is because, we're kind of telephoto right up there with him. And you just watch Norman's face just go through all its ticks of
yeah. And he has to wade sort of or swim through all of the what do you call the streamers from the party that was the night before. Right. And so he's kind of like almost like cobwebs pulling them out of the way in front of him.
So good.
And they're coming across his shoulders and his face and stuff. It's fucking good.
It's kind of like you could in another movie we just cut right into he's there at the door, whatever. But no, the movie is this is what I want to see.
Yeah.
I just want to see cool single take tracking shot Norman Bates deal.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good. Good job, Tony.
Yeah, man.
You did it.
All right. That's all I had.
That's all I have, really, too.
Should we move on to our next section then?
Yeah.
All right. For Psycho 3, what did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work.
I know the one. I'll say the one you're going to say, Tim. There's some egregious dubbing scenes in this. But it took me back almost. Like I can say I'm pretty forgiving of it. Like, yeah,
it was well done,
right,
for what it is, like, I guess. But it's obvious
to not be ragging on this movie. It's like by default that just doesn't like work for me. Like I'm gonna put that as like dubbing, you know?
Yeah,
this is a thing that doesn't work.
Like,
but
what
was
the fuck
weird.
Happened?
Yeah, that's why I was wondering. Like they're on the Universal backlot. Like what? Where's their
built
issue?
Giant fucking matte painting flats to put them in this environment.
You can't get good sound.
You're not sealed off
in the motel room.
What is a fucking like the fucking Universal tours like rolling by? Like what are we doing?
Yeah,
come on, guys.
I want to know. I want to know,
hell.
Tim.
Yeah, it's pretty. That shouldn't happen.
Maybe we could find out from one of the living crew members.
All right, I'll call one.
Yeah. Like I want to know that one producer who worked on like all of them or whatever. I want to ask him.
Okay.
Why was there dubbing?
Let's find him.
What else? What did you got? That was my saying because I knew you had it too. No, I have a couple others.
Okay. Well, I don't want to derail all
Should I
of
just
the
get
things
mine
we
out
said.
of the way?
Yes.
Okay. It's not a huge one, but just the actor Diana Scarwood who played Maureen just in this role just didn't add much for me. Like she I don't know, it was weird. She didn't actually have much of a resemblance to Marion Crane for me. It's just like blonde short hair. Like you need a little more than that. Like she didn't have that energy, and then I don't know, she just didn't do much for me.
I agree.
But
she was good. She felt vulnerable.
Yeah, she was good. But just to sort of like, Mary was super interesting in the last one as his love interest, I guess. It's just such a kind of fun cast of characters. The guy, Jeff Fahey as Dwayne, pretty memorable.
God, Jeff Fahey can tuck a t-shirt into jeans like nobody else. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I don't need to go on about that anymore. And then, what was oh yeah, this was like just a little distracting. There was stuff that worked and didn't work for me about this, but how it's supposed to be a month later, but there's kind of you could tell it was 3 years, like just how Anthony Perkins looks.
Yeah, for sure.
As far as the transition from 2 to 3. So that was a little distracting, but it didn't. In the end, I would rather have it go that direction. Like I already said, I like that it's a month later versus 3 years later.
You know what they should have done is they should have had a scene early on when he's stuffing birds or whatever, and he also grabs a pair of scissors and just gives himself a little snip on the hair.
Yeah.
And we would have gone, okay.
Okay, so we know he looks different now.
Right. Well, and also that like he's in a state.
Yeah.
Because he does look, he looks pretty different.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
So,
So that was just a little distracting, but I did like how, they didn't try to force it. Maybe it's more in the filmmaking ways, but like I liked that it was 1986. It felt like, versus 82 or whenever the Psycho 2 was supposed to be set.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting.
So you wouldn't have had that. So it was interesting where even though it took place in 82, I guess, it felt like 86, and I liked that about it. So whatever. But it did not work for me. I was slightly distracted by that. Whatever, though.
Yeah. Well, okay. So in spite of everything we've said, I still do feel like the matching of the murders is... I just don't know.
Like the phone booth murder, how that just felt like the shower scene, but in a phone booth? Because I liked that.
I liked that, but no, I guess more so really it's just Maureen, like doing the exact same camera thing with Maureen falling down the stairs. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I guess here's what it is.
Yeah.
It's this is why I was like rent stream, ultimately it does all work for me. Mm-hmm. But there's this pause I have of like how you are doing the greatest hits. And I'm like, I just am not in love with reliving the best parts of another movie.
Right. See,
this is one of the complaints.
Right.
You know, so it's like I really enjoyed The Force Awakens, you know, but it's doing kind of the same thing.
Right. I'll agree with you on Force Awakens. Tenfold.
Okay.
But this one, it's like, no, but when he's like, when she, you use the example when she falls down the stairs at the end and it's the same shot. Like, yeah, I love that shot from the original. Maybe kind of weird to just, you know, do it again. But it really, it's a come full circle thing for me.
I know.
Like,
and in our conversation, I even
like,
feel like I've landed there.
And it's like a viewpoint of Norman Bates's view. Like,
That's
it's sort
true.
of like to go down the stairs like that. If this is, he's going to do some kind of reflecting back on this moment. I mean, it's a big deal. Like, I'm sure when he saw this detective for the first one fall down the stairs like that. Right. So how better to kind of make the audience, you know, experience that with him than just to kind of, as I said, you know, bookend it with.
Yeah.
With the
no, yeah, I mean, you're right. And I think I just, in the first watch, you kind of, I in the moments was like the shot through the peephole and like, it is a direct rehash of those same moments from the same angles, and having Perkins really shoot the whole thing with the aesthetic, like this very Hitchcockian aesthetic, you know, made me initially kind of be like, ooh, are we just doing a rehash? But after a day of, you know, thinking about it, I'm much, much more forgiving of it all.
And you see how
because
it's
as
so
a
much,
whole, it works.
It's so different too.
Right.
But yet it's an evolution, yet it reincorporates what it needs to.
I forgot a thing that worked. Damn it. Let's back up real quick.
Back in what worked, Tim?
When they show Mrs. Spool, I meant to say it when we were talking about the shovel hit, but they show that in black and white, which I thought was really fucking cool. Because it's not in black and white in Psycho 2 at all. And fuck, dude, showing it in black and white made it felt even more like the first one somehow. I was like, whoa, which then made me go, so now we're back in things that did not work.
What did not work?
Fuck, dude. What if this one was in black and white?
You wouldn't have just been like, oh, greatest hits. You would have like...
I don't know, actually. I might have been like, it's too much of the same as the first one. But... because of how good the spool scene looked in black and white, I don't know.
It's hard because like so much about the kind of trash aesthetic, camp aesthetic I like is in the colors.
No question.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like it'd be fun to, as far as some like what if everything in the house was black and white?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That'd be neat.
That's interesting. Here's another thing that didn't work for me, and I thought we were going to go there, but we didn't get into the basement. Is it because we spent too much time in the basement in the second one?
That's exactly it. We spent so much time in it in the second one.
But I'm like, we're in the house.
You just want to see it
again. I love it. Yeah. If we're going to do fucking greatest hits, man, like let's...
But they aren't doing greatest hits.
I know, you're right. Damn it. They did... There's the opening shot of the house, they scan... in that one crane shot, they do scan the window of the basement, so maybe that's enough.
You just like that basement. We got the swamp
I
instead.
love basements. I was so scared of my basement growing up.
You were like little Kevin McAllister.
Oh shit, dude. Do you know I used to? Have I mentioned this before? When I would leave my basement, we had a light at the bottom of the stairs and a light at the top of the stairs. They're the same light. They're like they controlled the same switch, but the bottom light controls the lights in the basement and the landing light. So you have to turn off the basement lights, and I would literally put my back to the stairs and make sure that nothing, like when I turn these lights out, nothing got me. I'd turn out the basement lights and the landing lights are still on, and I'd spin around and fly up those stairs to the next light, and then I'd have to turn back around and make sure nothing had followed me up the stairs.
What are you imagining it could be? Like,
I don't even know.
It's just when you're that kid, when you're a kid, you just have that feeling of like your back is exposed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I would be able to turn off the landing lights. Well, it's really the light at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
Turn that off, and then I was good.
Basements.
Fucking basements.
Well, sorry, no
Scary.
basement. But as I said, you got the swamp. That was cool.
We did get the swamp. Mm-hmm. Cool, dude. I don't really have anything else.
Great.
I liked everything.
Next section.
Yeah.
Things of note.
This should be interesting.
Well,
I learned that we talked about Jeff Fahey holding the lamps over his crotch.
yeah.
That okay, I was watching. Sorry, I can't credit where this came from. I was watching some like video reviews on it and stuff, but they mentioned in one of these that, you know, originally Anthony Perkins just wanted like the full frontal nudity and just have it be that aesthetic, whatever. But Jeff Fahey wasn't too crazy about it. So the compromise was, what if he had this like in one hand, a lamp in each hand, and one of them was covering his crotch. So, which I just think is so great. So I'm glad that compromise worked out. Oh, then Tim brought up a still. There it is.
Yep.
Perfect.
It's
they're purple.
But yeah, I know.
It's so good.
It's weird.
It's like just
what if that was in black and white though?
Yeah, that'd be neat.
It would be really fucking cool looking.
Just to walk into that. I love that whole scene too we didn't mention. Remember how he like hops up from behind the TV like blah.
What the fuck is going on? We need, you know what we need is a spin-off on his character.
How he got, right?
Yeah. Like where the fuck he come from? It's just like a traveling fucking road show sort of thing where he's going town to town with his guitar.
And have like it be a Shyamalan twist at the end where it's like, oh, it's actually in the Psycho universe.
Yeah. We could write that. I bet Universal would pick it up.
Yeah. It's attached to it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I just noted things of noteworthy. And I liked when he stabs the mother and, you know, she's, you know, the corpse of the mother and she's quote unquote dying and she's screaming at him. You hear the voice scream and her voice slows down. And it was just like, oh, that was 2001 A Space Odyssey. Dave, what are you
very
doing,
interesting.
Dave?
Yeah.
I just thought that was fun, whether that was intentional or not.
This was made in 85-ish then, you think?
86. The film? Yeah, 86. That's when it was released.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, cool.
That's when I was released, Tim.
Hey-oh!
And yet, I have one more.
Your mother?
I have one more thing of note. What about you?
I don't really have anything.
Okay. So we mentioned the composer Carter Burwell. I was reading an interview with him from back in the day. And he said, Tony, as in Anthony Perkins, it was just fun to get this context, I thought. Tony had made Psycho 3 with a dark comedic eye, and oh yeah, there's a little behind the scenes. And Universal became concerned that a traditional horror film audience wouldn't get it, the dark comedy or whatever. So they asked him to add more blood. So they did additional photography, extended Carter Burwell's stay in LA, but gave him the chance to hang around the set. But I thought that was Universal was like, more blood. It's got to be clearer it's a horror movie to people.
That's,
yeah, not too often you hear that.
Now I'm kind of curious, like, what other movies did Universal release in, what was this, 1986? Let's see if we can find that really fast. Oh my god, that's a giant list. Okay. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
It is 86, The Best of Times, The Money Pit. Oh, I like that movie. Legend.
Legend's
awesome. Sweet Liberty, I don't know. Legal Eagles, I've heard of. Psycho 3 and Howard the Duck. Woof. Bullies. Oh, An American Tale. Hey, that was my 8th birthday party. I went to An American Tale.
Great. So that's what you were doing when I, again, was released.
Brighton Beach Memoirs. That's it. Wow. So no other horror films
were released by Universal.
The closest is
sure?
in that year.
Wasn't like House released, or was that Universal? Or
well, maybe it's one of the offshoots. Legend is the only one that's even close.
I don't know.
To a
I feel like
film.
you guys would have to research this better before.
I'm just looking at Wikipedia.
I know. That's what I mean. And I thought
Interesting.
It was interesting too that Anthony Perkins only had one other directing job, whatever, after this, a film called Lucky Stiff from 2 years later, 1988. Sounds like
you got the summary of that?
Yes, IMDb summary. A plump loser, after being left at the altar by his fiancée, is invited to Christmas dinner by a beautiful woman, but her family are cannibals who intend to have him as the main course.
What? Fuck, put that in the hat.
Yeah, let's watch that.
Holy shit, dude.
It doesn't have a great rating, but when has that ever stopped us?
That sounds amazing.
You want to see the poster? It says it's...
God.
Here's the tagline, folks. It's Psycho meets the Naked Gun. That sounds a little treacherous.
Could be really bad.
Put that in the hat. All right, Tim.
Oh, man.
We'll check out Anthony Perkins' Lucky Stiff at some point.
Great.
Anthony Perkins' Lucky Stiff.
Oh.
How about that?
Good old Anthony Perkins.
Yep.
What a champ.
And if you remember from our Psycho 2, which was our first episode on the Psycho movies, we're gonna stick around for 2 more episodes, because at the end of the Psycho episode, we're gonna give a fun tidbit about Anthony Perkins.
Oh, that's right.
That we teased last episode.
Yeah.
So after this, we're doing Psycho 4, The Beginning.
I don't even know what to expect. Where can it go from here?
And then we're going back to the original.
Yes.
Revisit it.
The original.
We'll see what happens with our conversation. Tim, I'm just gonna try to inundate myself with as much as it is possible. So I hope you do the same as much as you can.
I will.
So then we can try to go a step further.
Yes.
Great. All right. So that's what we got coming up. RecommenDEADtions.
I mean,
are we done with Psycho 3?
Yeah, I think we can put a bow on it.
Okay.
Also from 1986. What a coincidence. So my recommendation, I was thinking about, I guess just because I've been kind of revisiting movies from my, young years, and like movies that had good scares or things that like stuck with me. In the same vein as young Sherlock Holmes, the hallucination scenes were the thing that I always remembered from that. There's a movie that my brother and I used to watch called Solarbabies. Have you ever heard of that?
I feel like I have.
Well, it came out in 86.
Solarbabies.
It's one of those movies that was on like USA Network a lot on Saturdays or something like that.
Yep.
But it has an element, I won't really give it away, but it has an element of some pretty fun, like, special effects, like gore of like body horror gore.
Is it about solar babies, like alien babies?
I'm not entirely sure that I could tell you the plot of the movie.
Okay.
It's the future. I don't even know if it's on Earth. There's definitely rollerblading.
But you're recommending it because the gore, it sounds like.
Yeah. I think the fun little scares are fun. And from that sort of kid perspective, like it was impactful. But check out who's in it. Jamie Gertz. You know Jamie Gertz?
I recognize it.
She's in Twister. She's in a bunch of shit. She's probably She's probably best known for being the girl in Lost Boys.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then Jason Patrick, also of Lost Boys fame, are the two leads in Solarbabies.
Great.
And then Lucas Haas.
Oh, yeah.
He's in there. And then a bunch of other people that like you kind of recognize but kind of don't. But it's weird. It's just this weird sci-fi border. It's not really horror, but it's just weird like post-apocalyptic sci-fi future-y 80s shit. Mm-hmm. And it's like in a really nice sweet spot for me of just like quintessential mid-80s what the fuck. So yeah, that's mine. Solarbabies.
That sounds like a film that would have been at this cabin that I stayed at at the beginning of the summer, where the guy had like a DVD VHS collection.
Amazing.
But what was there that this cabin did have was a VHS of the Russ Meyer film Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Ooh. Have you seen that one? Have you seen Russ Meyer, Tim? Because seems like a piece of your brain.
You know, I feel like I have watched Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, but I'm not sure I've watched it all the way through.
So it's Roger Ebert's sole writing credit.
Oh yeah,
it's that one.
Yep. I know the poster. I know, like I know of it.
It's insane. I loved it though. Like it's so weird. Like at first it can be like really, really off-putting because it's just like this sort of, it almost feels like it's oppressive in its revelry almost. It's got like insane like jump cutting at the beginning, like unlike not jump cutting, just the pacing of the cutting like you've never seen. But it's, I mean, if you don't know Russ Meyer, you listening to this probably do, but it's sexploitation, basically exploitation.
Yeah.
Just kind of that dirty. Well, here's the Letterboxd summary. A hip and happening all-girl rock group head to LA to claim lead singer Kelly's inheritance and make it in LA. Soon the girls fall into a morass of drugs and deceit as the recording success soars. It takes several tragedies to make them stop and think, but is it too late? Nothing much happens. It's almost like watching, like, it feels like the plot of a porn movie, but with no actual sex in it. It's kind of just like very... It's not like, you know, full on shown kind of thing.
Yeah. Interesting. I definitely know it. I'm not sure I've seen it, to be honest.
There was just something so manic and unique about it that it really sat with me in a way that I recommending it here now. Yeah. And it has a Criterion release that I want to get with this incredible cover art.
Nice. Cool.
And I'd only ever seen one other Russ Meyer film before in college. That was Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens.
I see that here.
I believe.
Yep. Beneath. Yep.
But right. This one I liked a lot more.
Awesome.
So we already said what we're doing next week. Psycho 4.
The beginning.
Yes. Psycho 4, the beginning. Psycho 4, the beginning. In the meantime, you can find us at dismemberinghorror.com.
Oh, yeah. You can also find us at Dismembering Horror on the Instagram.
Yes. And on Twitter, we are at DisHorrorPod.
And if you want to recommend Dead something to us, you could just email us, dismemberinghorror@gmail.com.
Or if you have an opinion that swayed greatly from what we said, we want to hear that too. We'll even play it on air or read it, whatever.
Yeah.
Mailbag.
Get out your dictaphone and say some mean things into it, and then mail us the tape.
And then we'll play it on the tape machine on air.
Yeah.
But seriously, we want to hear what you think of these movies too.
Yeah.
We would love that.
That'd be awesome.
And if you enjoy this and think, maybe a 5-star review on iTunes, that'll help us out.
Yeah, thanks for listening, y'all. Yeah. We know you're out there. Somebody's listening.
We do know. We can see it. Well, I hope you're enjoying your October as it's getting through it here.
That crispy air.
It's wrapping up as we're in the midst of it here. We're love to be talking about, be a couple of psychos talking about the Psycho movies.
Yeah. What more could you ask for?
Right?
I'm wearing a sweatshirt, for fuck's sake.
Oh my God. Usually it gets so hot in here.
I know.
Yeah. Great. Well, yeah, all that good stuff. In closing, on top of that, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.